GrokTALK.
Welcome to another edition of GrokTALK, GrokTALK.com's flagship podcast product. And of course, we have podcasts every night, 7 days a week, plus a few extra odds and ends here and there that we stick in. So make sure you check out our podcast page and see what's there. You may find something you like. You may find a lot of some things you like. And of course, as always, remember to like, share, whatever it is you can do to help us reach more people. We really appreciate it. I hope you've been watching the AM update. I'm going to share a couple little snippets from last week in today's program. And of course, Monday through Friday, 5 days a week, you get to watch that. Some of the topics I'm going to attempt to talk about today with some degree of clarity. You can decide whether or not that's what happens when we're done. There's a big hubbub about the Farmer's Almanac shutting down. We'll talk about that just a tiny bit. Lots of speculation about who the J6 pipe bomber is and what anybody's going to do about that with the information that they have on hand. It appears there has been a shutdown deal in the Senate, and the big question is, will the House go for it? And finally, that pesky mayor of New York Mayor-elect Zorhan Mamdani, has a Maine connection. We're going to talk about that. GrokTALK starts in less than 60 seconds. Not everyone can get up every day and look for ways to piss people off. But here at GrokTALK.com, we do that almost every day. I can't tell you how many times someone's lost their SHIT and threatened to end us. But we're still here, pissing people off. It's almost like we enjoy it. And we've been doing it since 2006. That's almost 2 decades of news, politics, and opinion, and now podcasts, and we're just getting started. We believe in principles before parties and politicians. We defend free markets and individual liberty, and if that makes you mad, it makes us smile. We're like Grandma after she stopped caring what other people thought. If that sounds refreshing, you need to check us out. This is Steve McDonald for GrokTALK, and we'll keep shining the light on them for you. One of the enduring mysteries of the decade is, of course, who was the J6 bomber? 2 pipe bombs left at Republican and Democrat office space in D.C. on January 6th, the night before, allegedly, of course, and the FBI and the CIA, and nobody really seemed all that interested in at least publicly acknowledging the need to investigate this. It just didn't happen. The entire 4 years of the Biden administration, there was almost no interest whatsoever in who the perpetrator was or how they might find them. So it was interesting when some video was released of someone alleged to have been or suspected to be the J6 bomber. Of course, the figure was dressed in sweats and a sweatshirt, a hooded sweatshirt, but there was a general consensus that it was definitely a woman. And now, after 5 years, we have this report from The Blaze, which says they've identified who they believe to be the suspect who planted those bombs. The individual in question, at the time, was a Capitol Police officer and later worked with the CIA. So it feeds the conspiracy theory that not only were there hundreds of agents in the crowd, along with members of Antifa, dressed up as MAGA supporters who, in fact, were the ones responsible for instigating the actual riot side of the so-called insurrection. Of course, it's not an insurrection. And now we've got this. A forensic analysis of a female former U.S. Capitol Police officer's gait is a 94 to 98% match to the unique stride of the long-sought January 6th pipe bomb suspect, according to Blaze News. A software algorithm that analyzes walking patterns, including flexion, knee bend, hip extension, speed, step, length, cadence, and a variance, rated Shawnee Ray Kirchhoff, 31, of Alexandria, Virginia, as a 94% match to the bomb suspect shown on the video from January 5th, 2021. The veteran analyst who ran the analysis for Blaze News said that based on visual observations the program can struggle with, he personally pegged the match at closer to 98%. Kirchhoff, who was a Capitol Police officer for 4.5 years, left the department in mid-2021 for a security detail at the Central Intelligence Agency, sources told Blaze News. If you read down far enough, there's a lot of information there. It's pretty interesting stuff. You can check it out. The FBI put us one door away from the pipe bomber within days of January 6th, and we were deliberately pulled away for no logical or logically investigative reason, Serafin told Blaze News Friday. And everything about that tells me that they were involved in a cover-up and have been since day one. That's former Special Agent Kyle Seraphin. And again, it feeds the conspiracy theory. And of course, most of the conspiracy theories in this decade have turned out to be true. So, high probability that that's the case. Interesting article. To be fair, nobody's actually gone and arrested this woman. And in the interest of balance, I went looking for somebody else's opinion. Well, if you want something opposite the Blaze, the Daily Kos is a pretty good place to go. I have an article which cites the Blaze's report, but here's what's missing. Any official confirmation whatsoever. The FBI, Capitol Police, and Department of Justice all declined to comment on the Blaze's report. More importantly, Ed Martin, a DOJ special attorney, explicitly stated that the DOJ has not identified Kirchhoff as the suspect, directly contradicting any suggestion that government officials had confirmed the identification. This is a critical detail. The Blaze's story implies that multiple government sources validated their findings, but Martin's denial undercuts that narrative entirely. If the DOJ, the agency responsible for prosecuting January 6 cases, says they haven't identified this person as the suspect, what does that tell us about the strength of the Blaze's evidence? Okay, Daily Kos, we could go on and on about the strength of a lot of evidence that you've reported over the years, especially about Donald Trump, especially about January 6th, especially about the so-called insurrection, all of which were, to be fair, bullshit. But in this instance, you're correct. I will give you kudos here. If nobody's been arrested, if nobody's saying anything, clearly there's reasons, obviously. Maybe it's something to do with sources and the investigation, and they just can't say anything until they have all their eggs in a basket or, their chickens have been plucked. So I would say that they're probably looking at her now. I don't see how they couldn't be, and maybe they have. I mean, why did the FBI have surveillance in a building or apartment right next to her the week after January 6th happened, but then they were pulled? That's a little suspicious. So I would say that there's a good deal of credibility here, and it just needs to be explored. And again, she hasn't been charged. She's innocent until proven guilty, as are her motivations. I suspect someone will bring her in and talk to her, and whether or not they tell us that or not will depend entirely on who else is involved, because it seems a little odd that a Capitol Police officer, given the scope of the curious details surrounding January 6th, would just do this on her own. Does she even know how to make bombs? I mean, did somebody make them for her? Odds are really good that there's a lot of other people involved, at least several, enough to call it an actual conspiracy in the legal context. And you can't just scoop up Kirchhoff and then, I think you know where I'm going. I think they want to find out more information about this, and it's a good idea. But to be fair, hasn't been charged. To the best of our knowledge, she hasn't been pulled in. I did a search. I could find no evidence that she has been grabbed, scooped up, or otherwise interrogated or arrested by anybody. So the J6 story continues. But it gives us something to talk about, and it's definitely interesting, and it does kind of feed the confirmation bias. So we want to be careful, right? Always. But it's kind of neat, isn't it? Wow. Can you imagine if a Capitol Police officer was actually responsible, and then she ends up working at the CIA under Joe Biden's administration as security? Fascinating. All right. That's it for that story for now. Coming up next, that farmer's almanac thing I talked about right after this. We greatly appreciate our readers and viewers, and really, we just want you to come back and watch and read more. But we need your support too. This endeavor is entirely reader and viewer supported, so we need your donations. If you could find the donate button at the top or the bottom of the page, click that and give us a one-time or monthly donation. It is greatly appreciated, and it goes a long way to helping us support all the back-end costs that make all of this possible. You can also follow us on Facebook, X, Getter, Truth, everywhere. We're on Minds. And of course, we're on Instagram, and we're on Rumble. And if you follow us on Rumble, you'll get all the video content before anybody else actually sees it on the website. So join us, donate today, and support independent media. Thank you. Welcome back to Grok Talk, brought to you by Grok Media LLC and GrokTALK.com. Now, everybody, just about everybody, I think has probably heard of the Old Farmer's Almanac. I don't know if you Gen Xers or Millennials have, but I think you have probably, because it's just been around forever and it just kind of comes up somewhere, somehow. And if you live, especially if you live in rural areas, and certainly in New England, you will have been familiar with the product. It is a cute little yellow booklet with a bunch of stuff in it that's curious and interesting and folksy. And it got a shot, like a brief, like head fake sort of a thing. It's like, whoa, wait, because all the news services started reporting that the Farmer's Almanac was ceasing publication after 208 years, citing financial challenges. For centuries, the almanac used a secret formula based on sunspots, planetary positions, and lunar cycles to generate long-range weather forecasts. Everybody would have been like, wow, the Farmer's Almanac is gone? Well, a clarification. The 208-year-old publication that farmers, gardeners, and others keen to protect the weather have relied on for guidance will be publishing for the final time. Farmer's Almanac said Thursday that its 2026 edition will be its last, citing the growing financial challenges of producing and distributing the book in today's chaotic media environment. Access to the online version will cease next month. The Maine-based publication, there we go, not to be confused with the Old Farmer's Almanac in neighboring New Hampshire, was first printed in 1818. A lot of these headlines, well, they were a little misleading at first. Some of them actually said, it's not the Old Farmer's Almanac, it's the Maine copycat version. The cute yellow Old Farmer's Almanac isn't the one shutting down. This is from NeimanLab.org, and it talks about how the Farmer's Almanac for Maine is closing, but the Old Farmer's Almanac, which is owned by the same publishing company that publishes Yankee Magazine, is still going strong. And so what about it? I mean, everybody kind of knows it. They're familiar with the picture from the cover. We make fun of their weather predictions because, they're really as good or worse than the ones that come from the government. So I guess there's something to be said for that. But this publication has been around since, forever, 1792. The first issue came out when George Washington was president, and it has been continuously published through the Civil War, World War I, World War II, all the other crazy wars. During COVID, it still kept coming. And it was started in, like I said, 1792 by somebody named Robert B. Thomas. That was when the premiere issue was released. So what factors made the almanac stand out? Because apparently there were quite a few of them. It was quite a thing back in the day. So readers became fans of its astronomical data and long-range weather predictions, the latter of which were based on Thomas's own formula utilizing a complex series of natural cycles and observations. His forecasts brought uncannily precise results on average, known to be 80% accurate. It's better than the regular weather forecasters, if you want to look at it that way. These forecasts, coupled with practical advice and entertaining features, spoke to Thomas's mission for the publication to be useful with a pleasant degree of humor. Thomas continued as editor for more than 50 years, passing away in 1846 at the age of 80, reportedly reading page proofs for the 1847 edition. And it's just this thing that people get. It's always been there. It's the original bathroom reader, I guess, if you've heard of John's bathroom reader. Uncle John, is it? I forget. I think we have one somewhere in my house collecting dust. But anyway, the Old Farmer's Almanac isn't going anywhere. It's going to continue to publish continuously for hundreds of years now, and probably for many more to come. It's kind of like the Reader's Digest before the Reader's Digest, maybe? I don't know. I could have that wrong. Feel free to be insulted by that comparison if you want to. All right, so enough fooling around with this business. Coming up next, apparently Mr. Mamdani has a connection to Maine, and we're going to talk about that in a couple of seconds. Hang tight. Who can't get enough of the mistake called Zorhan Mamdani? He's going to be a train wreck in New York City. Democrats are excited about it, and so are we. He's going to be the poster child for why you shouldn't vote for Democrats, and I think that should be interesting. But we have to leverage it all correctly. So anyway, here's something that's useful on the topic. Turns out While at Bodwin and from 2010 to 2014, Mamdani railed in the school newspaper about being an oppressed minority in a field of white lilies. Well, first of all, you're the asshole who chose to go to that college in Maine, so shut up. He also led a campaign to have Bodwin join an academic boycott of Israel. Ooh, big surprise. Citing its oppressive occupation and racist tendencies, take a look at the featured image from the Maine Wire. Look at the stickers on his laptop. In the Bodwin Orient newspaper, published on Halloween, student Abdullah Hashimi, class of 2027, wrote a fawning piece about how the Ugandan-born Mamdani went from the Bodwin bubble to the big city. Hashim quoted from one of Mamdani's columns in 2013, whining about the Orient's alleged racist management in response to a white student who had defended the Orient's op-ed page as not needing additional diversity of thought. The pervasive male whiteness of the opinion pages does not stand alone, but rather builds on the sadly still present white male monopolization of both discourse and understanding, Mamdani wrote. While whiteness is not homogeneous, white privilege is. This from the guy whose faith turns women into less than property. So how about that? That's your Mamdani guy. Another quick update. This just broke. I just saw this. This is from the Western Journal. President Trump on Sunday issued pardons to longtime ally Rudy Giuliani, as well as 76 other people who worked on his behalf during his fight following the 2020 presidential election. He's basically pardoning everybody who was involved in the 2020 electoral activities that the Biden Dems condemned as illegal. And one more quick shot before we move to our next topic, which would be the Senate considering a deal with Democrats to reopen the government. Federal Appeals Court in Ohio ruled Thursday that students cannot be forced to use preferred pronouns in school. Defending Education filed the suit against Olentangy Local School District, arguing the district's anti-harassment policy that requires students to use the preferred pronouns of others violates students' First Amendment rights by compelling students to affirm beliefs about sex and gender that are contrary to their own deeply held beliefs. We had a similar situation with Policy JBAB in the state of New Hampshire. A number of lawsuits were brought about that caused some schools to drop it and others to just kind of pretend it didn't matter. And you can search GrokTALK.com for that. Just look up JBAB, and you will get a lot of articles if you want to do some deep reading on it in the state of New Hampshire on that topic. All right, we're going to talk about the shutdown now. Senate overcomes filibuster to advance bill to end shutdown. The compromise deal is expected to put an end to the longest government shutdown in U.S. history. The U.S. Senate has voted to end the Democrat filibuster. They got the 60 votes they needed, and so now they can debate how they're going to proceed to open the government. 7 Democrats have cast affirmative votes for the package, including Senators Durbin, Kane, Shaheen, Masto, Rosen, Hassan, and Fetterman. Senator Angus King, who caucuses with Democrats, also voted for the package. They have him listed here as an independent from Vermont. Hello, Epic Times. He is from Maine. So what exactly do we get out of the proposed stopgap funding agreement led on the GOP side by Senate Appropriations Committee Chairman Susan Collins, supposedly a Republican from Maine? The multi-part deal includes the House-passed clean funding bill to punt government funding into January, a vote on a 3-part appropriations package dubbed a minibus, and a promise from Senate Majority Leader John Thune that the Senate will take up a vote on extending Affordable Care Act subsidies later this year. He already said he'd do that. I don't know why they need to stick that in writing. The minibus appropriations bill wrapped into the package would greenlight full-year funding for 3 sectors of the government instead of doing independent budgets like they're supposed to, ensuring that these sectors maintain funding even if there's another shutdown in 2026. The package would fund the legislative branch operations, military construction, and the Department of Veterans Affairs and the U.S. Department of Agriculture and its operations. These are acceptable departments to fund, but I got to see the deal. I don't know why they don't want to debate these individually and just pass them. It should be relatively simple to do so. Unfortunately, the Democrats didn't want to do that. They didn't want to debate any of them. I think they pretty much wanted as much crap as they could get, and they were just using this to try to leverage their way in. I am suspicious, as should you be. And of course, Mike Johnson, the Speaker of the House, has said, you know what, they couldn't get a clean CR through the Senate, so now they've got a clean CR plus a minibus, and that has to go back to the House and pass for all of this to happen. So it's a lot of speculation. It's a lot of hope, and I'm not even entirely sure they can get it done. But we'll see. I think people have gotten really, really tired with the shutdown. Democrats have done a fairly good job of trying to lay blame at the feet of Trump and Republicans, even though President Trump has absolutely nothing whatsoever to do with this process and has no control over it other than his bully pulpit and Truth Social and everything else where he says, hey, come on, let's just get this done. He's been pushing for the clean CR. Let's see how he feels about it. He may be willing to pass it if it doesn't have a lot of ugliness hiding inside of it. We'll see. The previous version had a bunch of crap in it that was a complete waste of taxpayer money on foreign shit we shouldn't be paying for. We have enough issues here at home. We need to fix things here. We need to take care of people here, American citizens, not foreign visiting nationals who are jumping their visas and staying in the country, and everybody else who came during the Biden administration to whom those ACA COVID-era subsidies were directed. And since we're kicking them all out, we really don't have to give them insurance, do we? So that's a pretty good thing. So that wraps up this segment. Stay tuned. I'm going to come back with a clip from last week, and then I think we'll be done for the day. Hang on. GrokTALK's coming right back. Not everyone can get up every day and look for ways to piss people off. But here at GraniteGrok.com, we do that almost every day. I can't tell you how many times someone's lost their SHIT and threatened to end us. But we're still here, pissing people off. It's almost like we enjoy it. And we've been doing it since 2006. That's almost 2 decades of news, politics, and opinion, and now podcasts, and we're just getting started. We believe in principles before parties and politicians. We defend free markets and individual liberty, and if that makes you mad, it makes us smile. We're like Grandma after she stopped caring what other people thought. If that sounds refreshing, you need to check us out. This is Steve McDonald for Granite Grok, and we'll keep shining the light on them for you. Time to wrap things up. I know I've been saying I was going to share a clip from the AM update from last week. What I really meant to say is I'm going to share a clip from the AM update from this morning. I think it's pretty important because it's about turnout, elections, national and local. Remember to check out the AM update every day on GraniteGrok.com. You can get early access on Rumble if you sign up and follow us. So consider that, will you please? It's also on Instagram and on my Substack every day, Monday through Friday. Here's the clip. Check it out and check back soon. Bye. Politics for the left isn't an intellectual sport to be conducted within the polite parameters of free speech. It's an unholy crusade to be won by any means necessary, including censorship, lawfare, defamation, perjury, conspiracy, insurrection, and assassination. It's true. That is really at the core of the left. Lives and breathes these things, and it uses them to motivate everyone through fear and intimidation of the opposition, which would be us, and we don't do that, at least not as well as they do. And it matters. They get butts out of the seats, off the couches, on the streets, and into the polling places. And we need to find a better way to do that. Turnout is the only thing that matters. It kills us in the midterms. It kills us in town elections every single year. GrokTALK.